Welcome to another progressive rock installment, this time into the world of Yes. As it seems to be tradition now on the channel, I like to talk about the underappreciated albums, the poster children for cheap shots. And so, I already discussed two of my favorite bands, Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Genesis. Polarizing records hold a special value if seen from a proper angle outside of music journalism's list of essential works. The year was 1978, and Atlantic Records expected their money-making prog heroes to deliver new albums on the shelves. Genesis sent their 9th piece into the record-buying market on March 31st, and Then There Were Three was a thrilling synthesizer fest, but it featured a Peter Gabriel-era fan turnoff, a pop single by the name of Follow You, Follow Me, which was criticized by many as a sellout, but it was this song what finally broke the band into a decade of mainstream riches beyond their wildest dreams. This is one of my personal favorite Genesis albums, by the way. November 17th saw ELP release Love Beach, which was massacred over a hideous album cover, overshadowing many great musical moments within. And Then There Were Five, British progressive rock giants Yes released Tormato on September 22nd, 1978. Their 70s swan song had a weird cover that put off many before even listening to the music. It remains an infamous album ever since, with fans, critics, and record dealers throwing tomatoes non-stop. And this is the kind of album I like to revisit, The Underdogs. Well, I never liked Union in my teenage rock and roll studies over so many folks involved and poor songwriting. Tormato was different. I never liked the sound though, but the unmistakable musicianship was there. I tried to enjoy this for years, but my mind was set on the relayer and close to the edge principles. It was during one of my recent nightly documentary research sessions that I decided to revisit Tormato, and to my surprise, I loved it. What was wrong with me, I thought? This is the one Yes record you are not supposed to like. I took it on many evening Spotify walks across the neighborhood just to make sure, and I was mesmerized by the compositions. Every layer of keyboards and guitar, held by the harmonic wisdom of Chris Squire's bass, made sense. Signature vocal harmonies and passionate drumming made this a colorful journey. Sound-wise, this album feels like Metallica's And Justice for All. You just wish it had more low-end frequencies. But behold, the music is fantastic, with some parts of Tormato sounding like 1980s drama. Where Genesis 1978 was starting over as a trio and ELP crashed into a definite breakup of Hate Beach, Yes had a heroic intent behind this misunderstood album that deserves a closer look. A year of acclaimed prog rock titles. I have an obsession for albums released or recorded in 1978. There's something about their sound that really stands out for me, you know? Tormato is a worthy contender. Maybe the album cover sucks. Maybe it's the title. Have you had tomato soup? It's very nutritious. Tomatoes can also be used for gazpacho, served cold. Maybe I managed to revisit Tormato cold and rediscover its substance to the point of getting myself a CD copy for my collection. I gotta thank subscriber Frantic Dav for helping me out with the logistics. An album that spawned a hugely successful concert tour that ran for almost a year and led to internal tomatoes thrown within the band as they closed the decade in good fortune and total mass exhaustion. The last days of 70s Yes. This is the making of Tormato. The story of Tormato begins in December 1977 in France, as Yes play their last 4 shows from their Going for the One tour, with 90 concerts played since July 30th. That's double the number of concerts Led Zeppelin played that same year. These guys had to be worn out. Last night at the Pavillon de Paris, on the 6th, was a fitting venue that saw Frank Zappa, Pink Floyd, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Fleetwood Mac, Bob Marley, and Rainbow in 1977. Yes maintained their place as a premier live act, and Going for the One put them back on the rock royalty map after a long studio recording pause since Relayer and the band's controversial and shameful dismissal of virtuoso Patrick Moraz. We Yes fans will never forget his invaluable contributions. Now, having Rick Wakeman back in the band was a boost of positive spirits for the classic Yes camp. Their business mentality changed towards making things work as they entered their 30s, and money did buy some happiness. In many ways, Tormato mirrors the story of Going for the One, and it was just the third time Rick Wakeman and Alan White shared recording duties with Yes since Tales from Topographic Oceans. Going for shorter tracks instead of long side pieces was a smart move that eased some of the pressure off the compositions and also made Atlantic executives very happy. Their single Wondrous Stories peaked at number 7 in September 1977 as the band's North American tour saw them play every major venue like their British counterparts, Led Zeppelin. I suspect their hit single's success had something to do with people associating it to Supertramp's Give a Little Bit. The high-pitched vocals of Roger Hodgson reminded audiences they could in fact enjoy these registers. The Going for the One effect is the main reason Atlantic's Ahmet Ertegun pushed ELP into making Love Beach what it was, and to an extent made Genesis accelerate their transition into new wave pop sounds. Yes led the way for Atlantic's progressive rock division, with box office number highlights of 2.5 million in ticket sales, and Going for the One outselling both Relayer and Tales. Recording a new album was an obvious choice for Atlantic Records, cashing in the band's ongoing popularity. You strike while the iron's hot. It was a familiar place for a Rick Wakeman lineup of Yes, back to the Yes album followed by Fragile, and later Close to the Edge. The question remained, could they deliver the goods when they had some 3 years to come up with Going for the One and just 15 minutes for Tormato? Tension-wise, Yes was in a very similar place to Tales from Topographic Oceans after Close to the Edge. It was a battle of personalities, technology, and living up to the expectations. Sessions for the album began in February 1978 in London. Jeff Young and Nigel Luby were the recording engineers for the album. Young's resume included Emerson Lake and Palmer's Brain Salad Surgery, and Nigel was assistant engineer on Chris Squire's solo album Fish Out of Water. The stream of sketches and ideas written in precious little downtime on their 1977 tour speaks of Yes's creative spark, fueled by a sort of second coming for their career. The band had interesting plans for a new album, a two-part series released in both July and Christmas 1978. Their logistics included a very ELP Love Beach idea of recording the second part in Barbados, but that never happened. Tormato's original title was 11th Illusion, a much better name that was discarded because it probably sounded similar to Styx's The Grand Illusion, released in July 1977, and 11th Earl of Mar from Genesis' 1976 album Wind and Wuthering. The recording schedule for Tormato saw the band visit both Advision and Rack Studios in London. Advision was a familiar name as Rick Wakeman recorded his White Rock soundtrack January through September of 1976. This album is a prime example of Wakeman's musical style at the time. He had momentum and was all but short on ideas for Yes. Tormato was greatly influenced by Wakeman's prodigious working style. It was the band's first time at Advision Studios since the making of Close to the Edge. Rack Studios opened its doors in 1976 thanks to founder Mickey Most. The most recent album produced at the facility was Hot Chocolate's Everyone's a Winner. Longtime Yes producer Eddie Offord was brought in, but the partnership didn't work, leaving Yes to produce the album themselves, and this of course created a big problem. No one said the word no. The producer filter turned the whole thing into Yes Men, literally. Musical arrangements were a challenge in an environment where everything was Yes. Add in John Anderson's 1976 solo album that Sea of Tranquility's own Luis Nasser hates, and there was pressure to find space between such creative minds gathering at the studio. Gear-wise, it was a showcase for Rick Wakeman, who added a new weapon to his synthesizer arsenal, the Byrotron. If the name sounds familiar, it's because it's an updated version of a progressive rock icon, the Mellotron. Instead of using the old and unreliable 8-second tapes, the Byrotron featured an 8-track tape loop with no need to rewind. David Byro was the madman genius in charge of design, with Rick Wakeman himself heavily investing in the project. You can hear this instrument on Rick Wakeman's November 1977 release, Criminal Record. A great title and British pun thanks to Wakeman's fantastic sense of humor. The album was laid down on tape at Mountain Studio Switzerland right after Yes finished Going for the One, featuring Chris Squire and Alan White on 3 tracks. So back to the Byrotron. As a studio tool, it worked wonders. On tour, not so much, as the precise voltage requirements turned problematic outside of the UK. Although there are some 1975 rumors of advance orders for Byrotrons for John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Keith Emerson, Led Zeppelin's John Paul Jones, and Elton John, the very few artists who actually bought one included Tangerine Dream and Klaus Schulze. String synthesizers in the late 70s seriously hurt the Byrotron's future, and Wakeman lost a good chunk of money. It was Journey to the Center of Bad Luck.
Rick Wakeman, who's a composer and musician who studied at the Royal College of Music and is the keyboard player with Yes, and Joe Strummer, who didn't study at the Royal College of Music and is lead singer and rhythm guitarist with The Clash.
Yeah, and I've read a review the following week of that gig from somebody who's absolutely slagged it off. Yeah. Said it was the worst thing since Kellogg's Cornflakes. And if you read that, and if I hadn't been to the gig, I would have thought, my God, that must have been really terrible. But I saw maybe a couple of thousand kids there who really got off on it, who really enjoyed themselves. I saw a band maybe had a few problems, plagued by a few things that happened to go on. But the actual report that you read is not really valid to actually what went on.
Rick makes the point that a lot of people enjoyed the gig. That might be true, but I mean,
isn't that worth reporting? The guy to say, I didn't enjoy the gig, I thought it was terrible, but 2,000 kids thought it was magic.
That generally does happen.
Then you're asking to become...
Often or not, after critics, for example, the people that interview you and the people that go to concerts, in the music industry don't do their homework.
Now let's take a look at the songs from Tormato. For this section I will feature YouTuber extraordinaire Miguel Bass. If you watch my Led Zeppelin content, you know George Flutas, the John Bonham expert. Well, Miguel is the equivalent with his deep knowledge and virtuoso ability to recreate Chris Squire's magic. He is the George Flutas of Yes material. I emailed him a while ago and got permission to use his videos, so please check out his channel. I've posted the link in the description below. His admiration for Yes is infectious, and his technique is incredible. Future Times Rejoice is a classic Yes anthem revisiting the uplifting energy of And You and I with the fanfare mood of Topographic Oceans. Also included in the track is an exquisite displaced rhythm section of chords against the main bass line. Don't Kill the Whale's guitar intro signals into the future with a style later present in drama. Wakeman's Polymog solo steals the show. Track 3, Madrigal, is a beautiful piece of early Baroque music, showcasing Yes's unique skill in the classical tradition. The intricate arrangement is carefully constructed. House's classical guitar is some of his finest work of the 70s. Track 4, and another precursor of later drama sounds and mix, Release Release, is proto-80s sounding Yes, with an aggressive take on breaks and movements within. In the style of Relayer, the track features a wild drum solo, with crowd cheers added in post-production. Inspired by Anderson watching the science fiction hit Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977, Arriving UFO is a virtuoso contrast of joyful vibes in Wakeman's vicious keyboard explorations, reminiscent of some Patrick Moraz textures in Relayer. Circus of Heaven is a fairy tale piece of gentle passages with a carousel feel of rotating themes. The underlaying bass lines and backing vocals speak of Baroque complexity. John Anderson's son Damien, who was 5 years old at the time, provided spoken word bits at the end. Onward begins with a musical idea that I can't help to think of Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls. A profound piece of existential meaning, one of Squire's finest songwriting achievements ever. Listen to Onward at night and remember the good times. These shine ever so bright in present-day uncertainty. Album closing track, On the Silent Wings of Freedom, is a tour de force piece led by Chris Squires' frenetic bass that once again takes Yes into the 1980s sounds of drama down to the T. The title though reminds me of Robert Plant's lyrics on 10 Years Gone, quote, on the wings of maybe. The band left 9 tracks off the table that were later included on the 2004 reissue. Noticeable among these is a musical style closer to Tales from Topographic Oceans, relying quite heavily on long chordal motifs. I don't believe these are better than the final selection, but it's worth checking them out. Abilene was released as a B-side for Don't Kill the Whale, quite the happy pop song that battles a somewhat excessive use of guitar overdubs. Money is a rare track found in the Yes Years box set. It sounds like an early day 1969 Yes experiment in the rhythm and blues tradition. Picasso was a John Anderson composition where his acoustic guitar takes center stage. Some Are Born was another Anderson track with heavy influences, of the classic Yes sound, which was later reworked for his second solo album, Song of Seven, released in November 1980. You Can Be Saved was written by Squire, pastoral moods and inspired textures. It's an orchestral exercise for the senses. High was reworked by Howe in the Ways of Sketches in the Sun for GTR in 1986. Its use of repetition can be a hit or miss.
It is the evening, first light streams through the treetops, bouncing as the flowers illuminate to reach to skyward.
Days is an a cappella moment courtesy of Anderson. He would also use this for Song of Seven, November 1980. Countryside is an interesting piece whose sound takes you back to Fragile. It was later reworked by Howe for his 1991 solo album, Turbulence. Adding to my theory that Tormato is a true birthplace of Yes's drama sound, we have Everybody's Song, which works as an early version of Does It Really Happen? Last bonus track comes in the way of Richard, included on the 2002 box set In a Word. Despite its cassette tape quality, this is probably the most complete number from the outtakes. It was revealed in 2013 that Tormato's sound was a result of Dolby A noise reduction system not applied on the original recording tapes. An audio engineer decided to apply this, and the result was much different. The theory seems to be that because Eddie Offord left the recording process, the other engineers who replaced him didn't know if Dolby reduction had already been used on the tapes. This may explain the lack of low end and busy treble spectrum. Keeping up with Going for the One, the album featured the band's logo without a Roger Dean design behind. Remember the original title of 11th Illusion? It was discarded in favor of a Steve Howe idea of calling it Yes Tor, in reference to Yes Tor, a hill in Devon, England, the same area where Led Zeppelin's John Paul Jones used to live. This means the album name would have been Tor. Go figure, after Going for the One, imagine going to the record store asking for a copy of Tor. Sounds kinda silly, right? Design team Hypnosis worked on the expensive visuals and came up with a picture of a man holding a pair of sticks. Not the band, but actual sticks, while the background image was color treated with blue paint, similar to what Hypnosis did for Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy. This also reminds me of other Hypnosis covers, Renaissance's Prologue from 1972 and the blue composition of 10cc's Bloody Tourists. As a design, this is kind of boring, and one can understand the Yes camp being disappointed at this. But hey, at least it didn't feature bare-chested bandmates on the cover, right? Yes Tor had much potential for a great picture and design. Just imagine the name 11th Illusion here, with this landscape. I think Hypnosis was lazy and had a shortage of ideas. Tormato's blue cover feels like an extension of Going for the One's blue sky. So how did the band react? Tomatoes were thrown at the cover. Now there are many theories on this. Steve Howe claims someone at Hypnosis threw a tomato at the picture. Drummer Alan White said Aubrey Powell thought the design was a piece of and threw tomatoes at it. Rick Wakeman claims he threw the tomato angry at the results. Yes's own manager Brian Lane said the whole band threw tomatoes at the cover. Tormato was the inevitable name for the album. It was a tomato storm at the Yes Tor Hill. Something like Spanish festival La Tomatina, but in London. A vicious tomato attack at Hypnosis headquarters. Now speaking about the splashed tomato, I question its authenticity. While the seeds look realistic, the red portions of the skin seem a bit forced, more like thick layers of paint or jelly. Maybe it was a boiled tomato, or it was already sliced, but it makes you wonder if Hypnosis added some post-production bits to the image to achieve its final effect. I refuse to believe that tomato pieces stuck long enough to take this photograph. Now it's funny Yes Drama feature rocks on the cover as a sort of tribute to the failed 1978 album cover inside Yes Tour. The album design included a photograph of the band shot at Regent's Park, London, where Bedford College is located, home to many British rock shows in the early 70s, including pre-fame Queen in 1972. Yes's photo shoot was cut out and pasted at the Yes Tour Hill, and maybe this should have been the album cover, right? What do you guys think? But wait, there's more. Dartmoor, Devon in southwest England holds many tors, or small areas where you can find pieces of granite and stone. Tormato's gatefold shows a map with different tors surrounding Yes Tor. We have Black Tor, Dinger Tor, Raw Tor, Winter Tor, and East Mill Tor. Now there's some rumors that state the actual album cover photograph was not shot at Yes Tor, but Dinger Tor. Judging by these sites, Hypnosis had plenty of material to choose from. In the words of Greg Lake, the stones of years, all across a timeless landscape. We should be thankful the band didn't name the album Raw Tour, I guess. That sounds like a Gentle Giant album name, and I love Gentle Giant. Hey guys, so I decided to see for myself if the album cover for Tormato is possible. I bought a couple of tomatoes at the supermarket thanks to my dear patrons. So let's see if it works. So guys, as you can see, it didn't work. It doesn't look like the album cover. So I'm gonna throw them again and see if I can get a bigger splash. That's what she said. Yes's 9th studio album was released on September 22nd, 1978, the very same day as Camel's Breathless, Jethro Tull's Bursting Out, and Pink Floyd's own Richard Wright with Wet Dream, an album nobody purchased. Blondie's Parallel Lines went out the next day, featuring hit single Heart of Glass. Now for all revisionists who like to crap on this album, Tormato outsold Going for the One and the Yes album. It sits on Yes's all-time sales figures at number 5, just one step behind Yes songs. It peaked at number 8 in the UK albums chart for October 1978, right behind David Bowie's Stage, almost a year old Saturday Night Fever, and 10cc's Bloody Tourists. Yes embarked on a 101 concert date of North America and the UK that ran from August 1978 until June 30th, 1979. And just to put things in perspective, that's 4 shows less than Led Zeppelin's total from 1975 until their demise in 1980. Yes really went for it, touring like crazy, with a round and circular stage in the middle of arenas and a 360-degree lighting rig. It was a visually powerful offering that contributed to the larger-than-life stature of the band's popularity at the time. Whatever punk and new wave critics said about Yes being dinosaurs did not affect ticket sales. They'd never been so successful. 7 cuts from Tormato were performed on tour, with Circus of Heaven and Future Times Rejoice the most consistent numbers. Release was released from the setlist after 6 shows because of how demanding it was on Anderson's vocals. Arriving UFO was out after 11 shows, while Madrigal saw 34 onstage performances. Don't Kill the Whale was played 48 times, next to 51 for On the Silent Wings of Freedom. They took their ambitious setlist on the road, playing popular arenas throughout North America. The absence of both Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Led Zeppelin made the band fill the void for British representation, playing several dates at the same venues in both their 1978 and 1979 visits, such as the case of 7 nights at Madison Square Garden and 5 shows at Philadelphia Spectrum. A live recording of Don't Kill the Whale was captured on tour and later released on 1980's Yes shows. Tormato's tour ended on June 30th, 1979 in Florida. The band was exhausted and took a well-deserved vacation before reuniting in November to write their next album, or so they thought. This would of course lead to John Anderson and Rick Wakeman leaving Yes in March 1980 over creative differences. No songs from Tormato were played in the 80s or 90s, with some cuts returning as late as 2002. While Yes bandmates complained through the years of Tormato's busy guitar and keyboard arrangements competing against each other, is just a testament of their willingness to honor the virtuoso fame that built the string of 70s classics. The same band who made Going for the One delivered the goods on Tormato. They didn't sit on their asses nor took the easy way out. These songs are hard to play, never mind conceive. Yes had a tough time revisiting these numbers past the year 2000 out of emotional difficulty to come back to the material as well as figure out what the hell they played on the studio recordings. Rick Wakeman himself has expressed his desire to remix the album, but the ideas as musical components speak for themselves. I recommend experiencing Tormato as a single song. This is a rare instance for Yes on their most commercially successful period, the big touring band 10 years in the making. A reflection of monster ticket sales and the marketing frenzy surrounding a progressive rock giant surviving punk away from the edge of calamity and love beaches. Tormato's craftsmanship cannot be underestimated or ignored. Out of the 1978 prog trilogy I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Genesis came in first at number 42 thanks to its hit single, Yes was second after massive touring success and 2 singles, and ELP was last, selling half the copies Tormato did. I say we should throw tomatoes at critics and fans who vilified Tormato. There's magic to be rediscovered here. It would take Yes almost 5 years to outdo their 70s success, but they already had the blueprint. And I'll be honest, Tormato is the most musically ambitious album out of the trilogy. And then there were 3 that's very creative. Love Beach has great moments, but Tormato is a virtuoso album of virtuoso players at the top of their game, going for the one, going for success. I say give this album another shot. It was a Yes milestone with the wrong album cover, but that's nobody's fault but Hypnosis. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out a book I didn't read to make this, but I know for a fact it was written by a hardcore Yes fan who loves this album. The Story of Tormato by Kevin Mulreen is a must for Yes fans, and it features a foreword by Oliver Wakeman himself. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for the next destination here on JCM The Zeppelin Stories. Bye bye.